Hi, everybody. My name is Bruce Lombardo, and you are with me in my only hands count. With me today is my lovely co-host, Janet. On the
Hello.
other hand.
Welcome to the best little whorehouse in Texas.
It's a little pissant place. Um, it's a cute movie,
hmm I
and
love it.
before we go too deep, I want to say hello to our people in chat. Six Nations, 31 Kings is first. Says this movie harkens back to the silly, playful times when movies were made with the most simplest of premises. A lighthearted, feel-good movie with a pretty decent soundtrack. I gotta agree with that soundtrack. I
Mhm.
really do. I watched this when I was a teenager. I didn't care for it. I'll get into that. I'm not a huge country fan unless outlaw or musicals, but this is pretty good for both. Plenty of celebrities and character actors to round out the cast. Dolly and Dom really shined. Stephen Hill says, "It's Janet." Hey,
Hi.
everybody. Soy base for me. Hey, buddy. How you doing? One of our best little trolls that we've got. And I know that sounds like a mean, but I'm not. I mean, he does troll my guests and me a lot. So, I mean, he accepts it. Taking care of my mom and Scrappy. I'll take care of mom. You only got her for so long.
That's right.
Today we just watched a movie called The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. Janet nominated this for viewing. And Janet, how long has this movie been a favorite of yours?
Shit. I think it was like 1989 or 90 when I watched it with my mom. And I think one of my aunts was there when we watched it. Maybe a couple sisters or whatever, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun because my mom had seen it at the movie theater. She loved it. And I think it was like one of the movies was on sale or something. So she bought it with a couple others and she brought it home. We made popcorn and stuff and we sat down and watched it. And my mom was dancing around the house, to the music because she loved Burt Reynolds and she liked Dolly, but my mom was pure country. My mom was born in Denton, Texas. So she thought this was a great movie and she just sang along. I think she memorized. She probably even had the soundtrack for it. I mean, I don't really remember. I remember a lot of the songs that was sang on it. So I think she did play them a lot around the house. But I wasn't really ever into country western, but my mom was pure country. She just loved it. Now I went horseback riding and rode in rodeos and stuff, but I wasn't into country western music. But she loved this movie. So that's why the first time I got to watch it. And I loved it. This scene of my mom smiling, laughing, and singing along was great.
Um,
So
I've
maybe the
seen
memories is why the movie's even better to me. you know?
the yeah the movie really had a big push back in '82 when it came out.
Mhm.
And I remember telling my mom and dad when I saw it advertised, like, I wonder what that movie is like. And my mom just looked at me like, Are you really saying that? You want to see that? And my mom looks at the movie title and like, it's smut.
But it really isn't. It's very tasteful. My
It
mom did
mostly
not
is, yeah.
like this is my mom. Okay. We go to a basketball game. Okay. And there'd be a girl running out there playing basketball and she had 5 daughters. And if the girl's boobs were like bouncing around and she was holding them while she was running, my mom would say, "What's her name?" And then she goes, "I'm going to buy her some bras." So after the game, she would go and find out what size she had because she wanted her to have support. And she knew a lot of these girls might not have the money to buy good bras and stuff. So that's just what my mom was like. My mom was like that with everyone. She was very, very generous and she always wanted to help people. So that was my mom. So
Oh,
that's the way it is.
there's a cute little ditty in this song called Hard Candy Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And the lyrics to it really illustrate like most of America, most of middle America right now. We're like it, we're not going to have chocolates, we're not going to have the tasteful things. We're going to have the
Yeah, because
things that,
we're poor.
yeah, we're poor as shit. We're going to have jawbreakers, kids.
Yep. That's
So,
it. So, and my mom was poor. I mean, my grandpa told me a story one time about my grandma. He said that he was riding his horse down the road, and he was in the poor side of town, and he saw a girl sweeping off the front stoop of their house, and he said she looked up at him, and she had the beautifulest eyes he'd ever seen, and that he was going to come back and ask her dad if he could marry her. And he was a young army guy and that he thought she was just the most beautiful thing. I think she was like about to be 17 at the time. And he said he went there and he got to meet her and all her siblings, and that 2 of them didn't have shoes and stuff like that. So he went and bought shoes for them. And he said that she was sweeping and stuff, and they had a dirt floor in their house, and that all he wanted to do was to be able to give her a real house, and a real bed to sleep in, things like that. So I just thought that was sweet because she was really, really poor, and there she was from Oklahoma. And people still live like this. People don't realize that we have people that live in shacks that don't have any electricity, no running water, and we're handing over millions of dollars to people who just walked over the border and putting them up in classy hotels. And we have people that actually were born and raised here that live in little shacks.
6 minutes, 20 seconds in, and Janet is already on a tirade. She must have had to
Sorry,
take it.
this movie is just so good, and it gives you a little tiny taste of what it's like to be in a small town. And I'm not talking about just the whorehouse that's on the outskirts. I'm talking about the feel of the way that people look at things, and how politics gets in the middle of all of it. So you have a really nice, wonderful, quaint little town, but because somebody wants to win an election and they find a fault in a small town, that they'll do whatever they have to ruin it so that they can get reelected in the rest of the state. Because the rest of the state will say, oh man, he's really a good man. Look at it. He's really cleaning up the smut, and shit like that. It's just disgusting. And it's still going on today. So I just love all that part of the way that they shove the middle finger up into the government and stuff. It made you not like them. You wanted to root for the prostitutes, and I just thought that was great. It's a totally different aspect of what a lot of people would think of. And this movie was based on a Broadway musical, so I thought they did a damn good job at redoing it. And I love the people they chose, the different characters. With Dom DeLuise, he was perfect for his character. The guy that played the governor, the gentleman that got to play the governor, doing his little dance, sidestepping. I just loved it. I mean, it just fit each one of them so well. And if you hadn't seen this movie, I really, if you want to laugh, you like musicals, and you just want to look back at nostalgia of what a quaint little country town was like, that might have a little whorehouse down the street, and how it might be. I know it's not real life, because I'm sure it wouldn't be anything like that, but this thought politics and stuff like that, this is a very entertaining. I thought it was very entertaining. It takes you completely out of reality with the musical part of it, but it's a slightly romantic love story about someone who's
love story too
since high school. So, because she says at the end, she fell in love with him when she was 16. So, I just love it. I love romance, and I love musicals if they're done right. And is this the second or the third one we've watched? Because I made you watch Victor Victoria. I was trying to remember.
Which I enjoyed more than this.
Yeah, it's a good movie too. Yeah, the music was totally different though, and the story was different.
There's aspects of this movie I really enjoyed, just as a person that I like discovering new things. And there's parts of Texas that if you go driving through, like, you just get a different feel for the state, and the state's got like 5 or 7 different sections that are completely different from the other. And like, if you go down to Alpine or Marfa, Texas, it's going to feel a lot different than if you go drive around like Orange or say Plano or something like that. But this town has this town itself is feeling like it's got like 3 or 4 intersecting pieces of Texas geography and biome in it. Helotes feels much more different than Elmendorf, etc. But LaGrange just feels weird. Okay, I love LaGrange, I really do. As anybody with an A-class CDL will talk to you about, LaGrange has let me see if I can find it. Lagrange Schulenbrook area has a strange set of roads you're supposed to take as a driver, and if you don't, Schulenburg, excuse me, but Schulenburg getting onto the road from Schulenburg out of Lagrange, um, it just feels like it wasn't made for that style of truck. Like they made amends to the road, and you can actually navigate around it with a big 42-foot long trailer. Not recommended. They have signs up to help you new drivers to go the safe way with, which is more level and don't have these hairpin turns going up the side of a fucking hill. Lagrange is weird like that, and it just feels like it was built with a different era in mind. Lagrange is where there's a inspiration for this story. The Chicken Ranch was actually there. Melvin was based on a actual news reporter that he made his bones by going against organized crime.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was hired on by a professional news company as an anchor until his death in 2007. I think this happened all in 1973 or 72, somewhere around there.
Yeah, 73. And it said the brothel was published in Texas Monthly Magazine and also appeared in 2 issues of Playboy in 1974.
Yep, and Larry King, of all fucking people, is one of the authors of this.
Uh-huh.
One of the authors of the discovery. And then he pissed off Burt Reynolds during the making of the film, and he tried to goad Burt Reynolds into a fist fight. Nothing came of it, but those two had animosity towards each other.
Yeah, I was really surprised that you didn't think that he did a good job in this movie. I thought he did really good. I thought he was very it was almost like he was giddy when he was around Dolly Parton. He had this like he didn't know how to act, like he fidgeted a lot. If you notice,
the only time in the movie where he had a personality.
Fidgety. He was it was almost like he didn't know how to act when he was around her. So I don't know if he really did have a infatuation with her or something. It was kind of sweet because I paid a lot of attention to that, and he just seemed so. I don't know. I think he was enamored with her.
I mean, I think in reality he probably was enamored with her because she was kind of a beauty standard back in the 70s.
Uh-huh.
And the 80s, she still held on to that beauty. She was still looking really chipper, and she was doing a Dallas Cowboys halftime show earlier this year. I think it wasn't that part of the Super Bowl or no.
She came out with a new song last year. I think it was the beginning of last year or the year before with Pitbull.
Yeah.
Redoing 9 to 5, but it was like more like, hip hop and stuff. It's really good. I have it on my soundtrack. But she's just she's so iconic. There's nobody like her. I mean, she always wears a wig. She never went without a wig. She stayed married all these years.
To a guy that never had
she married a real country man. Okay. And he just wanted her to be happy. And he got the best of her. He got her. She was hot, good looking, hourglass figure, bubbly as all can be. And she loved him. And he knew that she loved him. And he loved her. And I mean, they had the perfect relationship as far as I could tell. She made money and he just enjoyed it. And he got to enjoy her. So,
I believe he had a paving company.
He had some kind of business, but the thing is he let Dolly be Dolly. And I just wish more people had that. I think so many relationships would last longer if you meet each other and you start to date because you're attracted to each other. There's something about you learn what your favorite songs are, what your favorite foods are, and you do things together and you learn new things together, things like that. But the whole time you're trying to change each other. You're like, well, I don't like you hanging out with your friends, or I don't like you playing golf all the time, and he's like, well, I don't like your friends. I don't want you going to the club and all this stuff. Next thing you know, you're both sitting at home like, you watch a TV going, what the fuck, what happened to us? And that's what happens to so many relationships, and that's part of my problem with my relationship was because I I don't want to do that shit. I want to be me. I like doing stuff. I like fishing. I like going, working in the yard. I like doing lots of stuff, but I can't just sit. I'm not a person that can just sit and be, unless I'm sleeping. So it's like, I don't know. I just see so many relationships that break up because of that. That they did. I don't know why. Why are you attracted to someone if all you're going to do is try to change them when you put a ring on it? You want them to be not who they were, that you fell in love with. And I think that hurts so many relationships. But that's what I loved about it. She was so iconic. She was so, this was in 1980, what, 7? Yes,
82.
1987. And it
Really?
was Dolly's,
It was 82.
she was a hit at that time. She had, I don't know how many hit albums. She had Dolly World or something that was her own theme park. I mean, she just had so much stuff going on. And Burt Reynolds was at his top too, wasn't he?
He was at his peak between 78 and 82. And I
Okay.
want to say this was released in 82.
Okay. Oh, it was released in 82. I can't remember. I thought it was 87 or something. But the
No,
thing
82.
is that the combination of the two of them, I thought was really good. I mean, he's really good at playing a badass, a country badass or a trucker or, something like that. And the girls were all beautiful that were in her chicken ranch. And what was his name? Jim Neighbors.
Jim Neighbors was
Yeah,
known
he
as
was
Going
just
Wild. He was
adorable in this movie. He's the one telling the story, and he's a wonderful singer himself in real life. My mom loved his music too because he did a lot of gospel songs and stuff. And to have him narrate it, and then he's playing one of the deputies, and he's just always so chipper, and he always has a smile on his face, like when he comes to tell him that they're sneaking into the chicken ranch. He's just, I don't know, he just iconic too. I mean, it just had so many great actors in this movie, and the music was wonderful. I thought the music was wonderful, colorful, tons of color, lots of really cute dancing. And I tried to chime in when you guys were watching it because I was watching the guys in the football team, and I was like, hot damn, but I didn't have my mic on, I don't think, when I yelled at you two guys or whoever was in the room when you were watching it. But because I was already dressed by then, I was doing my makeup and everything, trying to get done, get ready. But the thing is that I just loved it. It's a happy movie to me. It makes me happy to get to enjoy some of the stuff that was going on in this. It was funny. The funny parts were funny, like they're supposed to be. And how can they not be when you have such iconic actors in it, So I just loved it. But I'll shut up for a few minutes and let you chime in on some of it. Stuff
No,
I did.
it's completely fine. I think this movie has an interesting past to it, but there's been some movies that have been brought in to common day, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, I'm very nostalgic for this film. I'm very nostalgic for this film." Like, before I watched the movie Bachelor Party with Tom Hanks, I kept hearing people say, "Oh my God, I love that movie. Tom Hanks is so good in it." And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll give this a whirl. And I had to watch it for Nick Weiser's channel back in the day. And I watched it, and I loved everybody but the top two characters in it. I didn't like Tawny Katane, and I don't like Tom Hanks in that role. I generally do like Tom Hanks when he's not with little kids. But, I mean, I like him in Saving Private Ryan. I did like him in Bosom Buddies with Peter Scolari. There's a lot of roles he's done that I really appreciated. But the movie House Party absolutely bored the shit out of me when Tom Hanks is on stage. And this movie here, Dolly Parton has a perfect voice and pitch. She has this wonderful, wonderful singing voice. I think if you guys have not seen this movie, just do some video searches on YouTube and just see some video numbers or the musical numbers that Dolly does, and you'll be like, okay, I can see why Bruce is actually giving some good praise here for what Dolly's performance is. And Burt Reynolds, when he's on stage with her in the first act, he acts kind of like a kid that he's, kind of going through the entire, I can't believe I nailed this. I can't believe I'm with this. I can't believe I'm doing this.
Hmm.
And I think all of us guys have had that before where like we were kind of tepid or we were kind of like our bodies physically shook whenever we thought we had a hot chick with us. I think all of us have had that. Like, I hope I impress her, I hope I do good. And you come to find out like 3 or 4 times the sex later on in the next like 2 hours, like, hey, I'm hitting home runs. Awesome. And I think Burt Reynolds, I almost call him Tom Selleck. Burt Reynolds really does a good job in the first act with his scenes with her.
Hmm.
But the rest of the movie, I felt he fell flat. He just kind of like was bored and emotionless, and he's like, "I'm just here for the paycheck." He didn't impress me much.
Well,
Now
you didn't
Dolly,
think the scene with him and Dom DeLuise when he was telling him a sawed-off fart and stuff like that, you didn't think that was funny?
I needed a little bit more punch. I've been angry before. I know how
I
I
laughed.
sound when I get angry.
Yeah.
I
Well, I understand. You
both in both ways. When I'm very loud and obnoxious, and when I'm very silent, as I'm getting ready to ball up my shoulder and fist and throw something. I know my sound, and I think I've seen enough of Burt Reynolds to know when Burt Reynolds is a bad motherfucker.
Mhm.
White Lightning, Cannonball Run, Cannonball Run series actually. He comes off as a pretty much a good blue collar everyman.
Mhm.
And then, he's also in the long forgotten movie Deliverance, which we will have to watch at some point.
Yeah, it's a
But
good movie too. But
that's
this
an
was a
amazing film.
musical, so, I don't think Bruce he can sing, so
I didn't expect him to sing. I
yeah.
never expected him to
So
sing.
to see him like kind of standing there and just kind of in the background a little bit while she's singing, yeah, that's just to me. I didn't expect anything different than that because he's not a singer.
Well,
So
I expected him to have more oomph in his performance. I
yeah.
recently watched Cannonball Run, and
Mhm.
through all aspects of that movie, Burt Reynolds was being the Burt Reynolds that I know. And when I watched White Lightning a few weeks back, because it was on for free, I'm like, okay, shit, I'll watch this.
Mhm.
And so that was reasonably really good, actually. That like it was also weird to see him without the stash, but that was a really good movie
Mhm.
for him, I should say. But this movie here, after the second act starts, it really feels like Burt Reynolds sat in the background until Jim Neighbors would cue him up. Now, the rest of the cast of this movie is great. Like, I'm just going to read off the IMDb here. We got Dom DeLuise as the Melvin. He's this fucking over the top. Uh, Robert Downey Jr. sensationalist pile of shit that he is. He does a good job because you hate his character.
Yeah, but he did a good job to make you hate him.
Yeah, he did.
And he sang and danced, and I was just amazed. He had the horriblest wig in the world. I mean, at the
That
end,
wig is so
where
bad.
Bruce, where he pulls his wig off, and he's got the little tiny ponytails all over his head. It was just great. Then he punches him in the nose. I just love that. I just thought that the scenes. I would love to see the outtakes, and I know I said this when we were talking about when you told me that we were going to watch this next weekend. I was like, oh, I forgot how I was so excited because I just wanted to see it so bad. But the thing is that the back and forth between him and Dom DeLuise, I would love to see outtakes because I guarantee you they got cracked up, both of them, because I've seen them in other movies together, and they're just funny. They play off each other well, I think, and
Well,
I thought
yeah,
they did well in this one too. So
Dom was really good with Burt in a lot of films.
mhm.
Cannonball Run 2 comes to mind immediately.
Yeah,
And he was also in a chunk load of Mel Brooks films. And Mel Brooks like had one of the saddest tributes in 2009 or 7 when Dom DeLuise died. You can still go read it basically today, talking about how he's going to miss his friend and how Dom was one of the reasons why every time Dom was cast on a Mel Brooks movie, they had to schedule the movie 2 days longer because there'd be too much laughing.
yeah, because that's how I said. I guarantee. Oh my God, how great it must have been to get to work on set with Dom DeLuise anywhere on it because he was just so freaking funny.
Then we have World War II vet Charles Durning, who played the governor in this movie, Captain Sidestep,
Yeah.
and that
Oh
that
my God.
musical number was fucking great. You realize, at least I realized, like this guy is kind of like the long line and list of shitty people in politics. The uniparty is what I call them. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter if they're
when he
Democrat.
kept turning his head,
Yep,
how I don't know how he did that. But he just turned his hat would be like that, and he turned his hat would be straight. I
yep,
just thought that was great. All of that he
yeah.
was doing. I mean, I don't know who taught him how to dance or any of that stuff, but I just thought all that stuff that they did, the extra time that they had to take out to learn to do different things for their little
Their dance
routine.
numbers.
Yeah, their dance numbers, and then Dom DeLuise falling backward into the fountain when he's getting the gunshot off over his head and stuff like that. I just thought all of that was just adorable. And I love the woman who played Dolly's maid.
Oh, Jewel.
Yeah, she was adorable too. And she looks so familiar to me from other movies, but I
Teresa
couldn't tell you.
Merritt's her name. Teresa Merritt died in 1998, but she was in the movie Billy Madison. She played Juanita. She
Mhm,
was in The Goodbye Girl as Mrs. Crosby. She was in The Wiz as Auntie M, which I've seen that movie my fair share of times because
mhm.
Janet Jackson as a young person, young adult, hottie, a little hottie. She was in Serpent in the Rainbow, which we're going to review this October, and she was in American Playhouse. I remember watching that like once or twice because it was on TV. And I'm
Mm.
like, okay, I remember. But she reminds me so much of Nell Carter from Give Me a Break. I hate to sound like a
Yeah, now that you say that, she did. She's not the same actress?
nope, not the same actress.
Okay,
That's
well,
Nell
yes,
Carter.
they do look a lot alike.
And I thought that's who it was at first, but and I realized nope, chin's different. But Teresa Merritt was a hell of an actress. She did really good. I loved her role in this. She basically played the mammy of the whorehouse here, and it was a very good role for her because
Uh-huh.
everybody felt like when they watched this movie, like they like her character. And her character, like the very end of the movie, she sets Dolly straight. She's like, he loves you. Mona's like, but he's never told me that. And she's just okay, you're blind, whatever.
Well,
And
when in that one scene where she's yelling at him and telling him he's never going to be anything, he's never going to make it in the legislator and all that stuff, and then he says, "Well, it's all better than being a whore," and then you see the tears well up in her eyes. I
yeah,
just started bawling. I was like, "Oh God, I can't ruin my makeup," It was like because she was just it was so heartbreaking to me,
I
but it's
wanted to
real.
say that with a little
I
more
love
oomph.
that. I love that. It was so romantic because why is it that we always want to hurt the one person that we love? Why is that? Why do we do that shit? It's just so disgusting that we do that. Because I can have a lot of people call me a bitch or a cunt or a slut or whatever, all kinds of shit. I'll just say fuck you. I don't give a fuck, because it don't hurt your feelings. But when someone you love and someone you really care about calls you a name, it just like someone took your heart out and stabbed it full of holes and threw it on the ground and just started stomping on it. It's just, why does it hurt so bad when someone you care about says those things to you? You know, I don't know, but I just cried. And then at the very end, when when she sings that song and says that she doesn't want to be with him because she's going to ruin his life because she is a hooker. She was a whore basically. She ran a whorehouse, and he didn't care. He said, "But I love you." And then he goes, he opens the door, and you think he's leaving. You're like, what's he doing? And then he goes out and he starts taking all her luggage and throwing it in the back of his truck because he's like, he's not going to let her leave this time. And he had a good woman in town that loved him and would have been a good wife to him, but he wasn't in love with her. And I just loved it. I thought it was a great ending. I thought it was
Whenever
very romantic.
whenever he called her a whore, I wanted that to have a little more umph to it.
Oh, I thought it had plenty of oomph.
I didn't.
It was devastating. He stabbed her right in the heart.
I I I'm just saying like that was like the worst acting I saw, and
Uh,
in the movie is Burt Reynolds. I'm not.
no,
I'm not.
I understand that's your what your point of view of it is, and I didn't see that. I took it way different. Than
I I did find it interesting that whenever he sweeps her off her feet and starts to carry her to the truck, he gets a double hernia.
Probably.
No, 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 no. That's
Oh, he
verified.
did? Did it
Yes,
say that on a website or something?
it says it on IMDb.
Oh, I didn't get to read all of this stuff, but the part that I wanted to talk about was it
Well,
said,
hold on. I'll just share this shit because this is kind of funny.
okay.
He got
It,
a
yeah.
double. While filming the ending scene, Burt Reynolds gets a double hernia for picking up Dolly Parton. He often joked to Dolly that he'd think of her every time he got a pang of pain.
Yep. Yep. But the
So
fact that he did it himself and he didn't have to use like a double for her, that was lighter or something, and stuff like that. Because she's a little thing, anyways. I mean, she's very curvy and she has huge knockers, but
140 pounds is too much for most Hollywood men. No offense, guys.
yeah, probably.
I
Is how
mean,
much?
most
Is how much she weighed?
I don't know. I'm gonna throw that out there because she's probably a 110-pound frame with 30-pound bazoombas.
Yeah,
I don't, I
they weigh a lot. I mean, mine aren't as big as hers, but mine are heavy. I mean, I always go. I don't hardly ever go braless because they're heavy. Your shoulders start hurting and
oh
stuff.
shit, she's only 5 foot tall.
Yeah, she's tiny. I told
She's
you
not
she's
tiny.
tiny.
No, she's not tiny. She's
Well,
not.
I mean, she's tiny in height.
Yes.
I'm 5'9", so I'd be way over her. I tower over without shoes on. So
I did not realize she's a short stack.
yeah, she's little.
Um, it just there's a lot to unpack on this movie for me, but like the part that I wish I wanted more out of Burt Reynolds, and like that he's the part of the movie for me that fails. The women are fine, the dance numbers are fine. If you need something on in the background and you've watched the Blues Brothers over 700 times,
Yeah. Oh, that's the other one. That's the other musical. I knew we watched 3, so I was
that
trying to
that's
remember
that's
the other.
the best
I love
musical
the Blues
ever in the world
Brothers. That's
is the
one of
Blues
my
Brothers.
very favorite. Right, it's right under Victor Victoria, and then it's the Blues Brothers. But the reason I love Victor Victoria is because my mom loved it so much, and that's who I watched it with my mom. My mom loved musicals, and she loved Paint Your Wagon too. So that's another one I'm gonna have to make you watch with me. The
I'm
Clint
gonna
Eastwood.
we're gonna get out the schlock fest.
Okay.
All
But the
right,
thing
fine.
is it was good. But yeah, I just loved it. I thought it was so well done. It had so much packed into it. I mean, it was packed to the maximum with great acting. I thought the script was really, really good, and I thought the musical numbers were excellent. I thought the dance numbers were excellent. Like I said, I tried to turn on my camera and I was going, yeah, I was so excited when the guys are all dancing around because they know they're all going to get laid by these hot babes, right? After the winning the football game, how much better can it be than that, right? And I was so excited because I just love that whole scene, and they get all the guys dressed, like they're slowly they're all stripping, the girls come out in the ball gowns and everything, and then they're rip away ball gowns, and they're down to the negligees and stuff like that. I just thought it was adorable, and the cowboys are showing up, ripping off their shirts, and they're all, they're down to their skivvies and their cowboy boots. And I just thought that whole scene was just really, really, really good. The beautiful house, the furnishings in the house, uh, the elaborate costumes. That's a lot of costumes for all those pretty girls.
The costumes and the makeup had to be tremendous for this movie.
Oh yeah,
Budget on this
sure.
movie originally started off with $20 million budget. They ended the budget with 35 million.
Yeah, I can see
Because there
why.
was Dolly Parton is writing new stuff and she's putting things into the film that didn't quite make it in. And then you have a bunch of other stuff. Like there's a song that Burt Reynolds sings. It's on the end credits. You can see it on YouTube, I believe. I've not watched it, but it's supposedly a deleted scene. I don't need to see it. I like Burt Reynolds as he is. I don't need to see him go gay. But I want to see. I wanted to see this movie so much more in the way it was in my head than how it is.
Mhm.
And I'm not trying to say that this movie is a bad movie, because there's just one glaring problem I have with it. Same glaring problem I have with Bachelor Party. Same problem I have with many movies where I just don't like the fucking lead. I don't know how I else can say it. Um, there's a lot of films that are out there that are really good, and the script is good, the casting's great, catering's good, the sets are fine. But then you see the movie, and the main character is like some Timothy Chalamet. I'm not even going to watch the new Dune movie. I don't care if Paul Atreides is supposed to be 15 years old in the fucking book. When I do read the book, the guy in my head that's Paul is going to be fucking Kyle MacLachlan,
Yeah. Me
because
too.
I don't
I can't
like
help it.
the kid. It's not that I hate kids. I really don't. But I just, in my head, it fits to me so much better. And Timothy Chalamet just kind of bores me. Kind of like the way the new Peter Parker, Spider-Man, Marvel comic or Marvel Cinematic Universe Peter Parker, he bores me. I won't see any of the Spider-Man films from the MCU, not just for the fact that Disney sucks with a lot of hairy dick, but for the fact that I just don't want to see another version of Spider-Man. I watched the
Yeah.
one in 2012, and I'm like, but I like the ones from Tobey Maguire.
Mhm.
I thought those were the best. I've seen the ones from 1978. They
That's
weren't bad.
how I felt about Superman, but I really like Henry Cavill. I thought he did a really, really good job, even though it took me a little bit. But after watching, same thing with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Remember, I had a really hard time. I wasn't even going to go see it, even though Wolverine was my
Exactly.
favorite comic book, because Wolverine is short and stocky and hairy and stuff. He's not. Well, he's not Hugh Jackman. So to see Hugh Jackman actually be believable for me in the movie, I thought it was great, because it wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting it to be, him, just me not be able to accept him as Wolverine, but I was able to do that, and and I could accept him. But that's one thing I was going to read about Burt Reynolds, because it says in here that it says Reynolds was already one of Hollywood's leading actors at the time, and he was cast to play Earl, Ed Earl. And in this movie, it says some of his previous projects had been The Longest Yard, and that was a good one, and Smokey and the Bandit films, and starred with Jerry Reed. But despite his popularity, Reynolds was not the original actor that Larry King wanted for the role. He says he was wanting to get. He said he wanted to get Willie Nelson, someone who could sing. So.
Yeah, I can see that.
But he said, however, the only scene for where Stallion's Run was used and was solely for the rebroadcast version for the ABC TV television show. And since they weren't used in the film, Pardon included 2 songs on her 1983 album, Burlap and Satin. She renamed and reworked for Stallion's Run for the album, which became The Cowboy's Way once it was finished.
Okay.
So she made some changes with that. But she says that they also were thinking about Chris Christopherson for the part. So
I think
like
Chris
her.
Christopherson would have been a better fit for this movie. I'm
Mhm.
not saying I don't like
Gene
Burt
Hackman.
Reynolds.
I love Gene Hackman. He was also considered that they were thinking about maybe
I
asking.
like Gene, but I don't want to hear him sing.
I know, but I loved him in The Birdcage. Oh, he was phenomenal. That's another movie I'm going to make you watch one day.
That's a great movie.
I loved it. And I love
That's
Gene Hackman. He's one of my very top notch, in the top 10 of all my favorite actors. I just love all his movies. I loved him as Lex Luthor. I thought he was great at that character.
Okay, he's the only watchable part of Superman 4.
I just
The
think
Quest
he's
for
good at
Peace.
it.
If you ever saw that, which I wouldn't recommend people watch, but he was the only good part of Superman 4.
But I like Burt Reynolds in this movie. I thought he was really, really good. And he was believable in that one argument that you think he was flat on. To me, as a woman watching it, I felt like he stabbed her right in the heart. And that was what he meant to, because he was mad at her. But she hurt his feelings. you know, and that's the thing, is that when two people love each other and you get in an argument, you don't want to lose. You got to outdo whatever they say. If they bring you down, I mean, they're putting you down, even if it's true, it doesn't matter. You want them to hurt as bad as you're being hurt by the words that this person is saying about you. So, and I think that the last thing he said about it's better than being a whore, when he said that to her, oh, it's just, to me, it was devastating. And then after that's when she finds out that she's got to close the chicken ranch down. And I loved when Jim Neighbors is narrating the beginning, and he's talking about how it became the chicken ranch and where that name came from, that during the Depression, people didn't have a lot of money. So when they would come and want to get laid, they'd bring a chicken. And so I thought that was really cool. That's why they call it the chicken ranch. So, little things like that made it really, I just liked it. I just thought it was really, really good for a musical.
Yeah, we're gonna have to watch Runaway Jury at some point too, because it's a John Cusack, Rachel Weisz, Gene Hackman movie.
Yeah,
I like Bruce Bill's in it, so
yeah, you can do anything Gene Hackman, and I'm not going to complain about it.
Okay, then you're gonna be drugged into Heartbreakers too, because it's got Sigourney Weaver, Jennifer Love Hewitt.
I love her too. I love Sigourney Weaver movies.
That's the best movie that Sigourney Weaver was in. That's not in space.
Mm-hmm.
They're almost synced, right?
About what?
The two streams. If you watch both of us together, like you hear an echo from when they're not at the same time. I don't know why. Just travel time. Mage says something. I love Gene Hackman, but he was not a good Lex Luthor, or more accurately, his Lex Luthor wasn't well written. No, you're right. But he does bring a nice ham sandwich to that role. And that's what I want. If it's not going to be accurate, at least fucking entertain me.
But see, the thing is, Gene Hackman, I don't care how bad the script is, he makes whatever character it is, in my point of view, makes it his own character. You see what I mean? He tears it out of the script and it becomes him.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter whether he's acting just like this person or that person or whatever, if it was a remake or whatever, he makes it his own. And what's that other gentleman? There was a couple of gentlemen, the one that was in Victor Victoria, that actor, he's the same way. What was his name? Do you remember? His dad, he was in the last
Robert Preston?
Yeah. Robert Preston. I don't care what role or what he was supposed to do. It doesn't matter. He can just step into it and it becomes him. He can become whatever it is, and it fits. He's able to do it. And very, very few actors or actresses can take that and make it their own. And that's, I have not seen Gene Hackman bad in anything. And the role, what was the one, the Boondock Saints, the guy that put the dress on, what was his name again, that actor? I'm sorry. I don't remember the names. The cop, that I said was like a clairvoyant or something, or an idiot savant, because he was like a genius when it came to figuring out certain things. But that actor that played that role, I can't remember what his name is right now. He was the green, the Green Goblin in Spider-Man 2.
You're talking about
William Dafoe. Sorry, it took me a minute. But he's almost exactly like that. He's almost like he can take whatever role it is, he can take it out of the script and it becomes him. He's able to outshine anyone that he's acting.
I really like Superman 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was fun. And if you are a young Gen Xer and you see Superman 3 for the first time and you see Richard Pryor in it, you're like, wow, who's this? And then your mom and dad find out you want to listen to Richard Pryor comic, stand-up routines, and they're like, oh, hell no. No, your mom's there at Camelot Music with you, ripping the CDs out of your hands. You are not buying these with your allowance money. I will not have this in my store. Yeah. That happened. So the Superman movies from the 70s and 80s, they weren't quote unquote comic true, but for what we had at the time, they were written pretty well. I like Superman 1. I like Superman 2. I need to see the Superman director's cut or the Donner cut. which is like some 4-hour version of Superman 1 and 2 smushed together. And you see like a 10 or 20 pound difference in Christopher Reeve because at some point he stopped lifting weights during those like 4 years.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't have the same bulk he had from the first movie. And I would love to see that. That sounds like a lot of fun, actually, because I like those two movies quite a bit. But I really like Superman 3 and 4 are just cash grabs. Best way I could put it. Kynan Films especially is bad at that. But anyway, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. I love the cast for this movie. I actually like the way that this movie is patterned off of a real event, although the fact that Larry fucking King started throwing out threats to Burt Reynolds and saying we're
I
going to get
wonder
into a
why.
fist fight. What?
Did he say why he did that?
Because he wrote one of the pieces on the chicken ranch, and he got upset that the leads were Dolly Parton and Burt Reynolds. He wanted somebody like with chutzpah, or it's like somebody with like actual class to be in this movie. And we're talking about a movie that's based around a whorehouse in Central Texas, and he's getting butthurt about this. Is some New England fucking journalist getting butthurt about this shit. Or wherever
Well,
the
I
fuck
wouldn't
he's
mind
from.
seeing Burt Reynolds kick some ass, in real life, like he did basically with the character, because he was pissed off that this guy was coming and saying all this shit in his city or in his town.
It never came to pass, but this movie could have been so much more, in my opinion. And it didn't have to change a lot of hands to do that because Burt Reynolds, all he had to do was just be Burt.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't. I see Burt Reynolds, and it's like watching Burt Reynolds like 30 years from when this movie was released, when he's had his soul sucked out, and we get the animated corpse, the zombified version.
I didn't see that at all. I saw someone that looked starstruck.
Act 2 and 3 were just boring.
Starstruck when he was in scenes with Dolly. It was like when he was laying on the ground and they're looking at the stars and he laughs out loud. I think a couple of times he might have laughed out loud and they left it in there, even though it wasn't really in the script.
The entire time, okay, there's like 4 points in this movie where Burt Reynolds becomes the Burt that I want. One of the times is when he's laying on the ground, they're talking about Jesus and Mary, and that's entirely improvised. That's the Burt that I know. But then, like, the rest of the film with Burt Reynolds, when she's not on screen with him, it's not a movie that I really enjoy. Like, once he gets off camera, it's good. And I know that sounds like, wow, you are really trashing Burt's performance. Yeah, I am, because I don't think I think his direction in this movie is mismanaged or misplaced, and I don't think he quite understood the assignment. Maybe I had it wrong in my head, but I just was expecting something more from Burt, and he had to start at the stash. The epic stash is just being special, but I wanted better Burt. And I did not receive the Burt that I was envisioning I would get when I started watching this film. It's like when I was watching Bachelor Party, and Tom Hanks starts acting like Jim Carrey, but Jim Carrey with Tourette's and Ritalin and lots of other pills. We have no idea what they do, but we just feed them to Jim Carrey and let him go. But it's fucking Tom Hanks flopping around on a couch like he's having a seizure. I don't give a shit about this. Like, can we get to the donkey scene? And that was that was what I wanted. Anything but Tom Hanks in that movie. This movie is about the same. When Dolly's not on stage with Burt in this movie, Burt's performance is absolute trash tier. When she's on screen with him for like, when
so you
feel
like in those scenes that he was like drained, or he just didn't have as much energy, or
I think like they shot it off his schedule. And they didn't know what his schedule was, so they just let an 8-year-old script him for it, because a lot of the scenes in the Capitol were filmed at night because they had to accommodate Texas state legislature to do their thing. And so, like, I wouldn't have thought that Burt Reynolds is a sundowner, but apparently they filmed all of his scenes at night because, like, as soon as like he's on camera without Dolly, I get 30 hit points out of 100. Burt Reynolds, and
Yeah.
I'm not
Was he
getting the Burt
married? Was he married or single? Do you
at this
know?
time. Let
Yeah.
me check.
Because I know he married Sally Field for a while, didn't he?
Yeah, and that was following the bad decision of Lonnie Anderson. No, he did not marry Sally
Oh,
Field.
he was with her though. That they
He,
were really, really
they were
together.
together in 76 to 80. And this is kind of in that weird period. He was initially with Dinah Shore for a bit. She's not a looker. Then he was with Sally Field up to 1980. Then he kind of drifts a bit. And he met Lonnie Anderson in 88 and divorced her in 94, which I just thought like that. We already knew that was going to end in divorce. I knew.
Yeah, he even said something about that was, that he should have stayed with Sally. That he made a big mistake when he went with Lonnie because she was empty. She was, So, I mean, if he went out with, it seemed like he liked a lot of peroxide blondes, too.
Oh, that's a hell of a dig on Lonnie Anderson.
She wasn't a blonde.
She was.
I remember one time I was, because I had a lot of guy friends, and I was working as a cocktail waitress, and one of the guys liked this girl that was coming in there a lot, and we were going to go to the beach. This was down in Florida, and we were going to go to the beach. So a group of us went, and we were playing volleyball and all that stuff. And he was going on and on about how beautiful she was and to have a natural blonde. And I went, she's not natural blonde. I go, so apparently you guys haven't slept together yet, right? So, because, your hair matches your head when you're a natural. So I thought it was funny. Yeah, look at that. Tell me that's not real hair. That's her real hair color. No, it isn't.
It's not a real hair color. But at the time, I mean, this is Stroker Ace, and everybody and their brother is talking about how great this movie is, and I didn't see it. I'm not
I
gonna.
haven't seen the movie, so I don't know.
I'm not gonna enjoy seeing it because I just was never impressed by the adverts for it.
Uh-huh.
This is one of those movies that when they
Is that where he met? Is
advertisement,
this the movie where he met her?
I don't know if he met her in this movie, but this is one of the first films they did together after they were married in '88. And I felt like this is not a movie I want to even see. If I wanted to see a bad movie about racing, I'd see Kenny Rogers in Six Pack. There you go, guys. Here's a grenade from the 1982 era.
Well, yeah. I've been on a couple sets where they had a lot of strippers. It was like a bars and stuff with strippers, and it was based in the 60s and 70s time, and they were like in the paperwork they were submitting and putting out for the casting calls. It was like they have to have shag, if you know what I'm saying, because they were going to be naked, so they had to have a hairy bush or whatever. It was hilarious. So
let's get a girl with a stunt bush, like what they did in
well,
Waiting.
they can, but that takes a lot of time and effort. And if you're going to be just a dancer, you're basically getting paid what they paid the background. So they don't want to have to spend a lot of money on fake shag. So it's funny because you got these young guys and they're all going, "Hey, I'll look at the girls to see if they got what they're supposed to have," that kind of stuff. It was great. So it's fun to be on second crew, because that's what second crew is. The ones that, do a lot of the like the hand models, like if you're going to be in a movie with Jason Statham and he's going to be dealing cards or something, they want somebody with nice hands to actually be able to do card tricks and stuff, because it's not really his hands, whatever, things like that. So it's just fun, the stand-ins and stuff like that. Those are the second crew.
So I guess after we talked about that, I'm going to ask the chat that's here, and this includes you people on Twitter. If you guys could just write your scores in the chat, we'll be happy to read them. I want to take a moment just to thank our friend Baby Girl. I don't know who you are or where you're from, but every video I'd say 3/4 of the videos I release, you put a comment on there. I'd say
Oh,
about
that's
all
sweet. Is she in here right now? I didn't see
I
anything
don't
that came
have it
up.
here, but she's such a sweet little thing, and she always talks about, I have no idea what your gaming's about, but I'm here because this is a lot of fun to listen to you guys talk.
Oh,
So she always does that. Thank you, baby girl, and Apollo Patriot. Thank you for being here as well. He'll listen to this later, and he leaves comments.
yeah.
So
Good. I mean, that's good.
he also has this little bitty dog, this little like toy dog that she has on her profile photo. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that real quick. This movie, it's a good movie for me to have on in the background because the soundtrack is pretty up and chipper. There's a lot of pluses to the way they made this film, and I've got to give them a lot of credit for the fact they had really good sets. The uniforms, the outfits looked really good. The fact they were able to film at the State House in Austin was great. The fact that they were able to get everything scheduled the way they did, and this movie had, despite all the fact they had cost overruns aplenty, they were able to make double their budget at the
Good.
box office. And I don't even know what they did with
Yeah, with
money,
sales afterward with the soundtrack and
soundtrack or anything. I
yeah.
have no idea how much money they made, but this movie is a cash cow because it turned into a play before it was a movie. And the play was like on Broadway for over 1,700 shows. From what I read, maybe that's erroneous, but it's
I
something I
still
read.
think they use this script at colleges and stuff for their theatrical departments, and they do they do shows and stuff like that for different colleges that do that. So I think that they still use this once in a while because every so often I'll see a blurb, like on Instagram, or when I used to have Facebook, you'd see a little thing saying the so and so college is doing a Broadway show. The best little whorehouse in Texas, and then they have a couple pictures or whatever. So it was very popular on Broadway too.
I believe that.
Just like Cats. Cats was really big too there for a little while, but I don't think they ever made a movie out of it.
They did make a movie out of Cats.
They did?
They did.
Oh, I never saw anything
2019.
about it, but I remember it was very popular on Broadway.
There's a joke going around the geeks and gamers community as Cats was released that because it did so poorly, they would release a Cats butthole edition where the cats would actually have their buttholes showing. And I don't really know.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I missed that.
I'm worried about that. This is a 2019 production movie that made very little money, very little. I mean, it
looked like a lot of money in costumes.
A 2.8 out of 10 on IMDb is what Cats is right now.
Is that the people, or is that the like the professionals grade?
I want to say that's more. I'll be happy with my yellow.
I won't do that to you. I promise. Even though as long as you don't make me watch that other one.
Okay, we pinky promise. I will never force you to watch Willy's
Wonderland or whatever it's called. Is that what it's called?
It's what it's called, from Nicolas Cage.
God, that movie is terrible. Not saying that in a nice way.
I will watch that movie at some point just because I must see every bad Nicolas Cage movie. And
I turned it off. I after like 15, maybe 20 minutes, maybe, if I made it that far. I was like, I kept going. It's gotta get better. It's gotta get better. And it didn't.
Yeah, I went 5 years ignoring that monstrosity, Bruce, and you broke it by doing it.
Yep, it's bad.
Sorry, Six Nations.
That's okay.
Mage's Musings, have a good time, my friend. Love you, buddy.
Thank you for stopping in.
Thank you, sir. Oh my God.
So you guys can rate the movie, like a 8 out of 10 stars, or that type of thing, or you can do it like 1 out of 5, something like that. So It doesn't really matter. You can just put it anything you want on there,
Yeah, and
or A
no one will
plus
read it.
or B, that kind of stuff. So, give us your rating of it, what you thought about the movie yourself, and we can read it or whatever. But what was yours? What rating are you going to give it, Bruce?
I'm giving it a 55
55 out of what, 100?
out of 100. I was not entertained by the majority of the film. Part of the film is really good. Burt Reynolds disappointed me with his Act 3 without Dolly stuff. When Dolly's on in the latter part of the film, it seems like I'm just getting a depowered or drained Burt Reynolds, and I don't think Burt Reynolds is like that in all of his. I mean, he's dead now, but I mean, this movie isn't what sucked out his soul, though he acts like he's off schedule or he's off his pills or whatever, but he's not the Burt that I know. And it wasn't the Burt that I was expecting. Dolly Parton knocks it out of the park in this movie, but I'm not a super Dolly Parton fan.
Well, I'm not a country western, really. I'm not really like Alabama. There's some other few bands that do sing the kind of country. I guess it's called country rock or something. That I kind of like, but I don't like twangy country. My mother loved it. Oh my God, I'm like that one guy that sang. My mom played it over and over again. I guess we all have moms that used to do that. The swinging or whatever on the front porch, the swinging. Oh my God, I just wanted to jump off a window, just say, oh my God, Mom, this is making me ill. So maybe listening to that stuff growing up is the reason why I don't really like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm not a big country fan, but I just thought this movie was wonderful. I thought it was very well done. I thought that the actors they got to portray the characters were excellent. All the dance parts in the movie with the singing, whoever they got to train the dancers and get it to fit what was going on, in the set, I thought was really, really good. The way the girls come popping out of the rooms and sitting on the banister and their different costumes and things like that. And each of them could sing. I mean, every single girl that came out in that one song, I think it was when they were leaving, they're all going to do something new, in their lives. They all sang. And I thought they all did an excellent job. And I love the variety of girls they had. They had blondes, brunettes, redheads, they had an Asian, they had blacks, they had, this had a variety of women, which to me is more realistic for a chicken ranch, so it was nice. Yeah, it had a woman for every man, you know what I mean?
If you went there and you didn't want to get laid, it's because you're gay. Because there was something there for you.
They didn't have any guys there to take care of the gay men. That I guess that's a downer. Take off a couple stars for that.
Purpose. No, that they weren't supposed to have any gay. The gay guys were supposed to go to the dance hall or theater or not there. Not at the chicken ranch. The chicken ranch is for those that want a face full of clam. And that's what you do.
A clam platter. Yeah.
Exactly.
I guess.
Who doesn't love Long John Silver's? Okay, so
but yeah, I thought
the chicken ranch
girls did I thought all the girls that they chose were talented. I wonder if they were all like backup dancers and singers and stuff for Dolly. I didn't look that up. I didn't look up what they did before. I didn't see anything in the trivia part that I looked up. That they did that type of stuff. So, but they were all talented. So I thought they were wonderful. All the girls, all of them could sing, and dance. And the gentlemen that they had that were showing up from the football team to get their surprise party after winning the championship, they could all dance. So I think that they did get quite a few young men that were probably backstage dancers or whatever, the ones that come out when you do the big theatrical concerts. And I'm sure Dolly I never got to see Dolly in concert. I never did go with my mom to any of her concerts she went to. And so I don't know if they had, good dancers or whatever, but they all were talented. I mean, I didn't see, I looked and watched all the scenes that they did with the dancing and stuff, and I didn't see anybody that didn't look like they knew what they were doing.
Like a lot of this score in this movie, Dolly Parton wrote a bunch of stuff. Uh, Girl, You're a Woman, 24 Hours Lovin', Dotsy Mead, Angelette March, Bus from Amarillo, No Lies, The Good Old Girl, and Finale are taken
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah.
The songs that are in this movie, 20 Fans, Little Bitty Pissant Country Place, Sneaking Around, Watchdog Report, Texas Has a Whorehouse in it, is done twice. They reprise it one time. They have the Aggie song, which is funny as shit. Courtyard Shag's the instrumental in the movie. The Sidestep by Mr. Governor.
Yeah, I love that one.
That's
That's one of my favorite ones.
I love the Sidestep
I
myself.
thought it was a cute little song, and it fit perfectly for a person who's not leaving. They say, "Oh, you can't see him. No one sees him. He doesn't see anyone because he doesn't want to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing before elections, right?" So he's waiting, and he's got all these people coming in and bringing him all these, polls to see, what he should say and what he shouldn't say. And it's just funny because it's like real life. That's what it's really like. It's like a song and dance. That's all they do. They all sidestep everything. Every person you ever see on TV, and they're interviewing them and they ask them something, they all like, well, they skirt around everything. They never you can't get a straight answer from a politician.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought that Sidestep song was awesome. And did Dolly write that one?
Let me see.
She wrote a lot of the songs for this movie.
A lot of this, I'm thinking the song, the Sidestep was written by the original playwrights.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's right. It was a Broadway play. So
now, I Will Always Love You was her song that was like
and Whitney Houston made that one a hit too. She remade it a hit.
She made it she records it in 73 for her mentor Porter Wagner.
Yeah,
because she wants to go solo. And they released it in 74. It was commercial success. It reached top spot in the U.S. for Billboard Hot Country. First in June 74, then again in October 82 with re-recording for the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas soundtrack. And then you have Billy, what was it? Billy Brown. Who is Whitney Houston's abuser?
Oh, I'm trying to remember what his name is. Shit, I don't remember what his name was.
So anyway, she released it again for the Bodyguard soundtrack, and it was
it went to number one.
Yeah, Bobby Brown was
Bobby Brown. Yeah, that was his name.
His greatest hit was when she bounced off the stairs, and they stopped being a couple.
Yeah,
but she released that song in '91, and it became another hit again. And a lot of guys like me were like, "Oh my god, it's a good song," and my grandpa's like, "It was a country song first," and I'm like, "Oh," and I actually like the country version better than the Whitney Houston version.
Well, I thought both of them were beautiful songs.
Well, I mean, the way that. All right, guys, we're gonna have a mini review on The Bodyguard real quick. The Bodyguard ends terribly. It ends like a shitty movie, and the way that movie should have ended is Whitney starts off with "I Will Always Love You" at the very end. You hear the whole song, but it's Whitney crying her eyes out as the casket for Kevin Costner's character is wheeled in to the jet, and she just breaks down uncontrollably. Then it does a montage of his funeral and all the state people that go there to say thank you, and it has Ronald Reagan saying a nation is thankful for your service today, blah, 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 blah. That would have been better. The entire time, I Will Always Love You should be playing over this as Whitney sings it.
Yeah.
That would have been a better movie than letting him live and give her an older bodyguard so she doesn't fuck him. I really hated, like, one of these days we're going to review that movie and I'm just going to trash the last 10 minutes of it. That great movie, like, completely in the last 10 minutes, he should have died. I'm fucking sorry. You're a fucking bodyguard. You should have taken the entire clip, and we should have seen you poop your pants right there on stage at the Oscars.
Oh, that's terrible. I thought the ending was wonderful. I loved it. I thought it was a really good ending.
I didn't. I like more Japanese films than American Indies.
Yeah, you like to see all the body counts and stuff, like John Wick, click, 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 during the movie. Yeah,
John Wick isn't as good as The Raid, though.
No, I'm not saying it's the best. I'm just saying everyone I know that went, all the guys at least that went to see John Wick, say, take your counter, and they were just sitting there clicking to see how many people died throughout the movie, stuff like that. So
well, the best one is part 4 if you're going for clicks on that little counter, because him going up the stairs.
But so that other movie I would like to do is the one, what was the one with the guy? Oh, damn it, what is his name?
Sony Chiba?
The other movie, Anybody or something. Remember that movie? Nobody. Yeah, I want to do that. I would like to review that movie. That one's a good one too.
Get it on the list.
So, well, you're the one that makes the lists.
I'll get it on the list. Fine. Get it on the list there, Janet.
It's a good movie though, and it's full of action. It's great. It's really good.
I like Star Wars with the ending of Alderaan. That's kind of the start of the movie, though. That's the start of the entire trilogy there, Kronos.
Oh,
I love him. He's great.
He's always talking shit about something.
Yeah, my rating for this movie is a 55. There's a lot to like about it. There's also a lot that I don't like so much. It's better than your average 2.5-star movie for me. This is not a movie that I would recommend like most guys like me, like Papa Cotton. I wouldn't say, hey, dude, watch this. No. For Papa Cotton, you want to see a good movie? Go watch Hamburger the Motion Picture. Hamburger the Motion Picture, fucking amazing funny. Comedy.
It was funny.
That movie has so much.
It wasn't a musical.
What?
It wasn't a musical.
No, it wasn't. I'm not really a musical guy, though.
We have to review musicals once in a while. You're lucky I'm not one of my sisters, because they'd be having you do it every other weekend. They love that, John. But I'm really picky, and I thought this was a really good musical, just like the Blues Brothers, which I love. Love the Blues Brothers movie. The music in that is just kick ass. But I love that kind of music. That's my favorite kind of music.
If I have the genetic if I have the genetic opera, then we're gonna do that, because that's a musical by your theory.
Mm-hmm.
Repo. Oh yes, he does have it. Oh, okay. So next week on A Girl, a Guy, in a Movie.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, Janet, what is your rating of this film?
Well, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's pretty high for me for a musical.
Six Nation 31 Kings says, like I said earlier, it's a feel-good, lighthearted flick, 60 to 70% if you dig musicals, dolly, and country. If you got a supporting cast, that if you know them, you'll dig this. The nostalgia in this movie is very strong.
Yes, I agree with all of it.
Can Bruce or Janet sing? I can, but it's low.
I can't sing. I sing worth shit.
It's all right.
I can barely speak.
She said it's an 8 out of 10. I said it's a 55 out of 100. That's what you get out of me on this film. I'm sorry. But next week.
Uh-huh. What is it?
Next week we're watching Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers. I haven't seen that one yet.
1997.
Uh-huh.
And when I say 1997, I mean all of 1997. You remember 1997? I do. And this movie has the to me, it's the strongest of all of the films by Heinlein.
Uh-huh.
And there's been a few movies that he's done, but Starship Troopers is probably my favorite book he did.
Well,
But
I didn't read this book, so
you
sorry.
read, it pisses you off because you're like, we could have this society and this society would work
Uh-huh.
because it's a society ran by the warriors of the society. It's not a society ran by the politicians. The politicians are only media people, and if they get too stupid, we just cancel their show and no, we're not watching you anymore.
Yeah, that would be nice. We could really do that in real life.
But Star Trek
Wouldn't it?
Troopers is the movie we're watching. Ed Neumeyer and Robert Heinlein wrote it. Paul Verhoeven directed. It's got Casper Van Dien, Denise Richards, and Dinah Meyer,
Mhm.
along with Jake Busey and Neil Patrick Harris and Clancy Brown. I can't wait to watch this film with you.
Good.
I
I'm
love this
excited.
movie. It's also got Michael Ironside, who's one of the best actors in Hollywood. When you look at his list of movies he's done, there's a lot of schlock in there. But
Uh-huh.
the guy, he can act. He really does well. Also, Rue McClanahan's in it.
Okay.
You
I'm
know,
excited about watching it.
okay,
It's something I haven't seen, and it's a sci-fi too, right?
it is.
Okay. Well, good.
It's a
I
very
like
strong
We
sci-fi.
haven't had a sci-fi in a little while.
Don't. I will turn this entire list into sci-fi. We could go down that hill very, very, very happily. I would be stupidly happy. We'd watch every Star Trek movie. We'd watch every Babylon 5 movie.
Uh-huh.
We're
Those are
gonna be
episodes.
those are complete episodes.
Yeah, they're not movies. They're episodes from a show. But I like that stuff too. I could watch them.
Mhm.
I could watch, Star Trek Continues one at a time and talk about them if you wanted, because I loved it. I thought it was really, really well done. Not everybody agrees with me though. I've talked about it a few times on a couple other shows, and not everybody thinks it was as good as I thought it was. I mean, I almost gave it a standing ovation the first time I watched the first episode. I was so dying for, I was a
For
dried up
good
sponge,
content.
and then I got to see it. I'm like, I'm wet. It's great. You know what I mean? So I loved it. I was so thankful that you guys showed it to me because I couldn't believe how good it was. I still think it's great. I mean, it's right under the original Star Trek. It's better than this, second gen to me.
Yeah, I
So I feel
completely
that.
I completely get it. I actually like Star Trek Continues as part of the original series.
Yeah, me
That's
too.
how I do it. It's completely part of it. A friend of mine explained to me we have the 3 seasons of the original series. We have the animated series, which has like 8 or 16 episodes.
Yep.
Then we have the Star Trek Continues, and that rounds out the 5-year mission.
All the way to the movie, the first one.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to view Star Trek. If you watch other stuff that is Star Trek, uh, you can say you're watching Star Trek, but it's kind of like somebody saying, "Oh my God, I love the Disney Plus Star Wars,"
Hmm.
and the rest of us are like, "We don't consider that Star Wars. That's great for you, though."
And the fact that Scotty's son is actually in it, things like
Yeah.
that. And they bring actors from the original series
Mhm.
and put them back in as the characters that they played in this original series, things like that. That
Yeah.
little touches that were just really good. Lou Ferrigno, you know.
You have all the cues in Star Trek Continues. All the music that was used in the first series was considered, I guess, public domain, and so they used all of that.
Uh-huh.
And it came out so clean, so well, and
And you could tell,
they love it.
to me, sitting there watching it, I could just feel the love for the original Star Trek from all the people in it. It just it exuded it just oozed from it. That they really cared about the original Star Trek and making it original. As best as possible, even though they weren't the original actors. And I accepted that, because it's so hard for people like us that love the original of whatever it is, and to see a remake or whatever of it, and to see other people portraying those characters, it's kind of hard for us to, like choke it down, because you're like, oh, they'll never be that person, whatever. But they did such a good job of portraying the original crew. It didn't change the fact that they didn't look like him to me, exactly like him or anything like that. It was the fact that you could see they loved who they were playing, and they wanted to be as best as the original as possible they could be. And it just made me like him even more. So I was just really happy with it. I was so thankful that you let me watch it.
It's the Star Trek Continues is just one of those things that my biggest regret I will have in this life, I'll declare it right now.
Uh-huh.
I did not live with my parents and be able to show my dad that. Sit on the couch while he's in his chair and watch that with him. I would love to be able to have my dad watch Star Trek Continues with me at the house and just let him feel like he's a teenager again, watching Kirk and Spock and McCoy do their thing on an immaculate recreation.
You can still watch it with your dad.
Yeah.
See? But you're going to have to do it pretty soon, because you can't wait until it might be too late.
Can't wait too late.
Yeah, because,
Reminds me of an interview with John Rhys Davies. He was jabs at Spielberg with what made the indie films work 1 and 3 versus 2 and 4. The successful ones had John Rhys Davies in it. I believe that's everything I have to say about this. Best Little Whorehouse in Texas is not my type of movie. I'm not the guy that they were trying to make it for.
Yeah.
But as far as it's concerned, is it a good movie? They do a pretty good job of making a movie with a beginning, an end, and a conflict in between. If you can handle that, if you don't mind Burt Reynolds kind of drifting into the background for a little bit, Dolly Parton does a fantastic lead in this movie, and she shows off her figure that made her very famous in the 70s and 80s. A lot of jokes about her.
Definitely.
Lots of jokes.
Yeah, so she looked like she was definitely Mae West build for sure.
There's nothing wrong with Mae West.
No, I'm not saying, but that's why men adored Dolly Parton. That's what made her famous, was the fact of her hourglass figure. She always wanted to be dressed to the nines and have a wig, to have perfect hair, because she was poor. She grew up poor, and she had to work her way up. And once she became famous because of her voice and her singing abilities, she didn't want to ever go back. And so she wanted to be the very best that she could possibly be of Dolly. And she's iconic now. And she's earned every single moment that she gets in the stars she deserves, because she's worked very hard for that.
All right, so I just threw out an 80s joke. What's this, Janet?
It looks like a house or a building with some windows and doors.
No, it's Dolly Parton and Nancy Reagan playing poker.
Oh.
There you go, kids.
I never seen that before, but that's what it looked like. Because you draw pictures kind of like that stuff where we're playing DD or Pathfinder or whatever. So I was thinking it was in front of a building or something.
No. That's Dolly Parton and Nancy Reagan playing poker. Make sure to drink your Ovaltine, kids. That's it for this week.
Oh my goodness, you're so funny.
We're gonna come back next Sunday. Come catch us in Discord as we watch Starship Troopers from 1997.
Yeah, starting at what time? About 12?
That'll be at noon.
Yeah, at noon.
12 noon. Recommend everybody come. And then afterwards, we'll do the synopsis and review dissertation.
Yeah.
Janet, if you can get a hold of the book in the next 6 days and read it, you're going to love it.
Okay, maybe I can find it online.
I wouldn't doubt it. I would actually say it might actually be a you might be able to actually get an audio book or audio reading of it.
Oh, you have someone that said something. They met George Lucas.
Madrano says, I've met George Lucas a few years ago, say above, and in 2001, I had coffee with Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford, interesting guy, very soft spoken, like nothing he plays on screen. That's all I'm going to say. Bumped into him about 8 years ago. Very soft spoken guy. He's quiet. Like, quiet to the point where, like, you expect him to, like, do something, and you're like, you've got the Han Solo or Indiana Jones in your head, or maybe even just The Fugitive. And Harrison Ford is like just trying to shy away from you because he realizes that you're looking at him and you're expecting him to do a trick, but you only get that at the theater. You only get that in the theater when you've paid your money. Then Harrison does his trick, and that's it. Yeah. But Harrison's kind of like he's just a very quiet individual. He doesn't want to do any acting or public performance. The complete opposite in public that what Bruce Campbell is. Bruce Campbell, middle of downtown Decatur, Illinois.
Yeah.
In front of the Avon Theater, advertising his book, Have Sex the Bruce Campbell Way, grabs the back of his neck and flips himself over. I mean, he was doing this for a crowd of people that were like there waiting in line to get into the theater, and he just kind of came around the side of the building, starts bullshitting. Bruce Campbell, completely different. If you have your choice, kids, meet Bruce Campbell. He probably will not do a backflip now because he's like 70.
Yeah, maybe.
I want to say he's 70 because he was born in 50 or 51, something like that. But nobody recognized him. Wow. Okay. Like I said, next week we review the movie, amazing film, Starship Troopers. And he's a very bad plastic surgeon. Yes, he is. Look forward to seeing all of you here or in the rewinds after we've ended the live stream. So go ahead, post your comments in the comments section. Please be courteous to one another. And until then, have a great night.
Thank you for joining us. Hope to see you again.